Hi, I'm Artemis,
And I'm Hannah.
and welcome to episode 11 of Makeshift Podcast, part 2 of our DR Memories episode.
We're just going to pick up right where we left off on the last episode, which is in season 2 of our Once Upon a Time DR. And this is a memory that completely changed a certain part of season 2 that was actually like really surprising, but also adorable. So this is the day of in the show Archie's funeral. There's a bunch of stuff going on. He's not actually dead, but we think he is. I end up leaving the wake early and heading to my apartment. So I had just gone into my apartment and gone into the bathroom, and I heard my door slam open, followed by a panicked "Swan, are you here, Hannah?" from a voice I hadn't expected to hear again, and it was Hook. I opened the door, like I flew open like the bathroom door, and like you can pretty much see the front door from like my bedroom because there's no door there because my bedroom is a dining room. But I could see him just standing there, and I like took a moment, like really took him in, because the last I saw he was in the Enchanted Forest, and we had just jumped through a portal, leaving him and Cora there for good. There was no other way of getting back to Storybrooke. So I hadn't expected to ever see him again, so I was very pleasantly surprised and just kind of like stared at him for a second. And then I asked what he was doing here, and he said that he came over with Cora for his revenge and defied me. He was on his way to skin the crocodile when he saw me walking on the sidewalk and ended up like deterring completely from his plans, running up the stairs and following me into my apartment. I don't know how I didn't hear it. He must have been far enough away, or may have been listening to music. I don't know. But he had deterred from all of his revenge plans because he saw me, and he ran to follow me. And I smiled, and I was really glad to see him, and actually kind of touched that he had abandoned his search for revenge for a detour to see me. Especially
It's
after how we
so
had left
Flynn
things.
Rider. I
I know.
can't. It's so Flynn Rider coded.
So I told him as much, like I was really surprised that he changed his plans to follow me. And he admitted that he's not even really sure why he did it. He's just like, he saw me and like there were no thoughts. And he himself is confused by also being there. And then I said, we need to go tell all the others that Cora is in Storybrooke. See, he told me that Cora was in Storybrooke, and we need to make sure Henry's safe. So we go to leave the apartment, and we literally hit like an invisible barrier. Like the memory was literally walking into this barrier and like bouncing back and like putting a hand up, and there being like an invisible wall basically. And then Hook starts throwing himself at this invisible wall, like full on, like no fucks given. Like if there wasn't a wall there, he would have flown halfway down the hallway with the amount of momentum that he was throwing. And I like grabbed him and told him to stop because that was not helping anybody. And I pulled out my phone, and I
I
was
was
like,
gonna say, good thing Cora doesn't know about cell phones.
literally. So I literally just pulled out my phone, and I'm like, no, it's totally fine. I can call them and I can let them know everything that's going on. So I called Emma and told her what was happening. Meanwhile, we're walking around my apartment trying the windows. The windows do open. I go to the balcony, and we can go out onto the balcony, but you can't put your hand out past the barrier of the balcony on either balconies that I have. So while I'm talking to Emma, like we're doing this. And I, tell Emma, what happened, that Cora is here, that me and Hook are somehow magically stuck in my apartment. No idea how or why, but they need to know that Cora's there. Obviously, Regina was framed, as I had told them at least 3 separate times over the last 48 hours, but nobody listened to me. I'm just gonna throw that in there because I'm convinced from the very get-go that Regina was framed, and there's no amount of like proof that can convince me otherwise. We've seen so many framings in Storybrooke, and I'm actually like a little offended on Regina's behalf. At least these are the memories that I have, that they would even accuse her in the first place. Because I'm like, come on, guys. Literally, why?
It's too
Why?
obvious.
Yeah, it's way too obvious.
It's
Way. And it makes me genuinely like upset.
I have a feeling that Ruby also thinks that she's innocent because I think that, sorry to interrupt you,
No, you're
because I
fine.
think that we've seen that Ruby has a connection with Pongo, and I feel like she would know that, because here's the thing, she might not know that, I don't know that she can like directly communicate with him, but I think that she can like sense enough from him that she would know that. I think Pongo knows. I don't know he knows that that Regina is Cora, but he knows that Regina is not Regina.
Yeah.
And I think that Ruby should be able to sense that much.
Mhm.
that Pongo should at least be able to feel that Pongo's feelings towards Regina are different than the way Pongo acted in the memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly. Especially I feel like there's a moment where like Pongo like goes up to Regina and licks her, right? Like after
Yeah.
that, and Ruby has to know something's up.
Mhm. I 100% agree. So,
I think honestly, I think that Emma is just I
Emma
think I
does
think what happened
believe
with I think what happened with Emma was she was so convinced Regina was innocent, and then seeing that
the memories.
it was not, I think she felt so betrayed, and also so it caused her to doubt her own intuition and her own abilities so much that she is now convinced of the exact, like she can't, like
Ah, no,
she's now
that
complete.
actually that makes complete sense. I
Yeah,
can almost guarantee you that's exactly what's going on.
very
I
Emma.
didn't think about it like that because all I can think of
Yeah.
is the fact that it's obviously not real. This is
and and
obviously
and it's an excuse for her not to open up and trust people again,
that's true.
because we know we know she and Regina like have this thing where like they understand each other in a way that I don't think that a lot of the other characters or a lot of the other people necessarily understand either one of them, because they they kind of have similar experiences in a way, which is why I think in the show we see that Emma sticks up for Regina a lot more than anybody else does, not just because she never knew her as the evil queen, that's part of it, but also because I think she identifies with Regina in some ways. And I think that feeling that kind of betrayal from someone who she identified with and stood up for is like a really specific kind of betrayal, and also is like she's not gonna open up again after that, right? So that's, I think on some level she does know Regina is innocent, but I think that she can't admit it anymore. Like she
Yeah,
can't let herself, because that means she has to be vulnerable again.
that would make sense. I 100% buy
God
that.
damn it, Emma.
I know. Just
This
like
girl, this girl really needs to let herself feel things.
hopefully we'll get some work on that. I'm really
Yeah.
genuinely hoping that me and Emma have a lot of like quote unquote slumber parties throughout season 2 that we wouldn't see in the show, but like is gonna happen like in the back because I just can't imagine that she'd want to spend all of her nights in the same loft as David and Snow, you know?
I think Emma needs to go see Archie just as much as anyone else does,
I
personally.
agree. I
But
think
I
she should
don't,
definitely start having therapy before season what, 4? I think is when she first starts talking to Archie finally. That's too
yeah,
long. It's too
yeah,
much.
no, it's too long.
So, but tangent aside, I call Emma and I basically tell her everything. I can hear Snow and David in the background flipping out, absolutely losing their minds. And I tell them it's fine, not to worry. I can handle Hook. They just need to focus on finding Regina so that Regina can get me out because this situation has to be solved with magic. And I don't know I have magic at this point yet. I think I'm pretty sure. So like other or I had just barely found out like earlier that day. I don't know. So we're kind of just stuck there and we get off the phone and I kind of just like look around because Hook had disappeared at some point and he's like inspecting things on my bookshelf. He's like grabbing things and he basically is just like I like the place that you have here. I can't remember his exact words, but it's like it's a little dark, a little macabre, but I like it. I like it. You got some pirate in you. Cause like
Yeah,
I've
I
got
was gonna
bones
say
everywhere.
that's one, like it's doesn't he live in a pirate ship?
He does, but his
That
pirate ship
can't
was
possibly be
originally
much
an
darker than the pirate
enchanted.
ship.
His was an enchanted ship though, and it's all gold
That's
and
fair.
yellow and white, all not my colors. But so I'm like I pull him away. I'm like, put my stuff down. Like, what are you? Do you want to like watch TV? And he's like, what's TV? And I was like, oh my god, how do I explain a television to a man from the Enchanted Forest? And then this is something I didn't get until much later, but I've gotten so many additional memories that add on to this one. So that was the initial memory I had. It kind of like fell out with me trying to explain to him what like TV was and having the intention of playing Snow White and the Seven Dwarves so that he could see it because I just thought that would be hilarious. Not that he would understand, but I would understand and I would find it funny. But there's a knock on my door and I open it and Emma, David, and Snow are all standing outside my door and they're all panicked and they try to come in and they can't. They're literally like they hit a wall. And then they're just like, we wanted to make sure you were okay. Like, and I'm like, it's fine. Everything is fine. We're all good. And David's like, this is the first time David has ever seen my apartment, as far as I know. And he's like, kind of like looking around, like trying to seeing that there's clearly no bedroom, like normal bedrooms. Like, there's only the one room for us to sleep in and whatever, like that. And I think he's just being a typical dad, which I think is hilarious. And they offer to sleep outside the door in case I need them. And I tell them to go home. I am an adult woman. I got this. Everything is fucking fine.
Overcompensating much?
And then they leave begrudgingly. Like, I literally had to force them to leave. Be like, guys, I'm going to just close the door and I'm going to ignore you if you stand out here in the door. Like, this is ridiculous. You need to go home. Everything is fine. Hook is going to be on his best behavior. Aren't you, pirate? Thank you. And then just leave it at that. And then later on in the night, I end up putting on like a very more put together pajama outfit than I would normally wear in my home by myself. And he compliments me on my pajamas and he thinks it's really cute and it's a good look for me. And I throw a pillow at him for that little comment. So, but those are
I
all,
didn't know that part.
yep, he compliments my little pajama outfit. And as I like after I come out of the bathroom, like he's literally like leaned up against the bed like this, like his legs out,
Of course he is.
like just like he made himself at home in my bed, like in my bed. He just like looks over at me. He's like, Swan, I like your outfit. That's a good look on you. You should wear that more often. And I'm just like, oh my God, literally, who does this? I'm like, so I see you made yourself
Probably never seen pajamas before, so like
uh,
it makes sense that he would be like, this is an interesting outfit. It like has no
interesting sleep
idea
clothes. Yes.
that it's sleep clothes.
Yeah, literally. And it's just like, you so ridiculous. He does not put on comfy clothes. He wears his stupid leathers to bed, by the way, which is the
Of course he
weirdest thing
does.
ever.
Of course he does.
I was like, will you at least take off the jacket?
Because
Like, there's
why sacrifice fashion for comfort?
just literally just why. But he does keep his hands to himself. So I will give him that. He was a complete gentleman the whole night, even though we did end up sharing a bed because I didn't have it in me to let him sleep on my really uncomfortable couch. So I was like, you just sleep in the bed. I really don't care. Sleep there. And he did. He was nice the whole night. He was only a little shithead in the morning when he started teasing me again, which was not polite behavior. But yeah, that's that memory. That's one of my most intense memories. I've also mini shifted into that memory at least once, if not twice, like into like the starts of that happening or a different part of the night occurring. But that's one of my most in-depth memories I've ever gotten. It played out like a movie scene. Like, it was so weird. It was like a movie scene, but from my first person point of view. So let's see. I've got a random one. I don't know when this one happens, but I'm sitting on the docks watching the water in the horizon when Hook comes up behind me. He says he saw me sitting over here and asked to join me. I've got my legs like dangling off the dock. I'm swinging them back and forth, and I motion for him to sit down and say, sure. He asks what I'm doing out here, and I tell him that I'm enjoying the view, like as I'm like looking at the horizon. And I confess that I've always felt drawn to the ocean, and growing up had always actually wanted to be a pirate, and how being a pirate to me equals freedom. And he chuckled, and that's pretty much where that memory ends. But I like to think that he definitely agreed with me that he also sees pirateering as freedom in his eyes, because he doesn't use it for the same ways that some people may think pirates use it for. Let's
Also
see.
Jack Sparrow.
Yes. 100%. When Emma, Henry, and Gold go to New York City to find Balefire, Hook does end up getting out of my apartment. Regina does come and ends up breaking the curse. It does happen after all the stuff with Belle happens, so somebody completely different pushes Belle over the town line. I don't know who that is, but it's not Hook.
We think it's probably her father.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that just happens the one time. I don't think he pushes her through like the mine cart. I think like there's just the one instance of her being like threatened by him, and I think that's when that happens. But after we get out of our apartment, I think Hook is feeling kind of conflicted. Some things end up happening, and he does end up still going to New York to try and deal with Rumpelstiltskin. And so when I'm actually on the phone with Emma when he shows up and he like attacks her, like he shoves her aside to like get to Gold and stabs him in the middle of New York City. Like who does that? That's so inappropriate. Just one, that no thoughts, only dumb boy brains. And so Emma like hung up the phone, ends up calling me back and tells me everything that happens and basically tells me that they locked Hook in a closet and they were on their way back to Storybrooke and they had left him behind. All the while, they have been talking over the last several weeks about being scared and concerned about strangers finding Storybrooke, to the point where there is a man in the hospital that they all confessed they all considered letting Dr. Whale not save. Like, who, guys, if we're all very concerned about that, why would we leave
A
Captain
storybook character
Hook in
in New York City?
And that's literally my exact response. And David and Snow try to like talk me out of. They're like, this is the right. I'm like, you guys are morons, right? Like, I'm no offense, but this is the stupidest shit I have ever heard come out of anybody. Did everybody lose brain cells today? Like, did we all get poisoned? Like, I'm genuinely curious. And I'm like grabbing my coat. I'm like grabbing my bag as I'm like, because we were at the diner when I was talking to them about it. And they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm obviously going to New York City to get him. And they're like, you can't do that, Hannah. And I'm like, I actually can. The town line doesn't mean dick to me. So see you later. Bye. And I literally just like leave because I'm mad. I'm furious because not only did they leave a storybook character in New York City where literally anything could fucking happen, but they didn't even like think about it. And nobody's thinking of the long-term consequences of any of the actions they're doing right now. And I can't do it. I can't do it. It's stressful. And I also don't want to drive. I don't want to drive 6.5 hours to New York City from Storybrooke, Maine, because it's about how long it takes, but I do the whole time. And I'm so mad the whole time. And then I show up and I find
the
Neil's
only
apartment.
competent one, like actually.
Well, I mean, and that's on track for my real life though too. Like I'm the person who always gets shit done. And I think about long-term things that most people don't even like think of. And so like this all is very much lines up with exactly how I would react in this situation. But I do drive all the way to New York City. I do get to Neil's apartment because they sent me the address at least. And I end up finding him. He is still in the closet. Tamara had not gotten to him yet. So that's another part of our DR that's obviously going to be changing quite a bit because he's not going to be kidnapped by Neverland people and doing ridiculous, stupid things that don't really make sense. No, instead, he has to sit in the car with me for 6.5 hours and listen to me lecture him about how irresponsible and stupid his decisions and his behavior was, and how we had just had talks. We had just spent a great night and a great morning really coming together and really deciding that we might be able to at least form some form of a friendship, if not even potentially something more, because it's not that I'm not interested in something more. And then he goes and takes his invisible pirate ship to New York City to stab somebody. That defeats everything we had just spent all this time. And his excuse is basically that he wanted to do the right thing, and he thought that in doing this, it was because he was afraid of making a new start if the crocodile is still a threat to his happiness, because he doesn't want what happened before to happen again. And I don't know if when we get to that part, I don't know if he actually ends up telling me that like in the car, or if that's something that we end up discussing at a later date. And so like I can kind of sort of see if you've been pursuing revenge for all this time and now you have a glimpse at like a happier ending for you, but you know that there's this dark force that could literally rip it away at any time. Like I feel like it was almost like a trauma response rather than a set of stupid boy actions. But that doesn't change the fact that he's gonna get a lecture.
I would also add to that. Sorry, I dropped something.
No, you're fine.
I would also add to that habits are hard to break.
Yeah.
And like even if you know better, it's like easier to justify sticking with what you're familiar with, even if you have sort of come to the conclusion that it's the wrong choice or the wrong idea. And also, I was gonna say, you can teach an old dog new tricks. It just
Mhm.
takes some time,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's why we have this whole car ride 6.5 hour conversation because I don't get to sleep. No, no, no. I spent 6.5 hours driving there just to turn around and spend 6.5 hours driving back. He can't drive. He doesn't know how. He doesn't have a license. He's from the Enchanted Forest. He doesn't even know what a car is. So I think at the end of that car ride, I end up deciding not to take him to like the sheriff's office. I choose not to turn him in because honestly, it seems really redundant. And I'm still pretty mad at David Snow and Emma and everybody else who made dumb people decisions and literally forced me to go clean up their messes because they didn't think for more than 2 seconds. Because in the grand scheme of things, Rumpelstiltskin wasn't going to die of the poison that quickly, obviously. Could have waited an extra 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's all it would have taken.
And
Take
even if
10
he
minutes.
had, like, what would have happened when law enforcement found him there?
Right.
Someone with no ID
No
and
social
like
security card, no birth
no
certificate.
nothing. Like there would have been investigations. Like where if we're trying to keep Storybrooke from being found, this
That's
is a
not what
bad
you
decision.
do.
This is like such a bad idea. Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
just
So I think instead my compromise for not turning him in is to just let him go, just let him go, do whatever he wants. And but I'd like before he leaves, I basically tell him that like I really think that like he should get therapy for his issues and talk to Dr. Hopper, assuming Dr. Hopper will forgive him for being a part of his kidnapping, regardless of if he was the one doing the kidnapping or he was just complicit in knowing that he was held captive and he used that to his advantage. If he can
which
get
we know he
forgiveness,
will because
yeah,
that's what
that's what
Archie
Dr. Hopper
does.
does. Yeah.
That's
So
what
I'm like,
Archie
if
does.
you can, you should go talk to Dr. Hopper, assuming that he will forgive you, considering and get help for your issues because nothing is going to get better and you're not really ever going to be able to pursue a new relationship, a new happy ending. You can't pursue those types of things when you're holding on so much to this thing that has literally just gotten to the point where it feels like it's burned out your soul. And you need to talk to somebody about that. Like I want you to get help, but I can't be the one to help you because going to New York City and stabbing somebody without thinking of the consequences is just beyond my abilities to help you, regardless of if I can understand the reasonings behind it or not. You need
And
to
it's
go
not
get
your
help.
responsibility
Yeah. So
to
I was like,
help him.
until you talk to Dr. Hopper and you start getting help for all of your issues and like your past, there cannot be a future with me. There cannot be a future with me if you're holding on to your past with everything left in you because there's nothing for me to be with. And that's pretty much how we end things. And he does go get therapy. He get like right away. Like I literally think he goes straight to Archie's apartment
Yeah.
and they just
I
start
feel like
talking.
that's probably why I feel like he's not involved in that much stuff in season 2, and I think it's probably because he's
Getting
going on this
therapy.
internal journey where he's yeah. That's
Yeah,
at
it
least
makes
that's sort of like my impression of what's
yeah.
happening in season 2. We haven't talked about this, so I don't know if it aligns with
No, that's
what
what
you've
I
got.
assume happens because it's almost 2 weeks, I think. And this is again, I don't know the exact timelines of things, but my guess is it's about 2 weeks before the next memory I have with him during season 2. And that's literally like when I'm out practicing magic for the first time after Snow's birthday, after I've already saved Joanna, and like I'm actively trying to like figure things out.
Yeah.
I run into him at the beach and
I think
we
hold
talk.
on. I think I just got possibly another memory. Is it possible that you and Regina together figure out like a safety plan or like a safeguard so that Johanna will survive, but Cora will think that she's died or something?
So from what I've gotten, and I don't remember if this was an inclination memory or like a memory, but Regina's not a part of any of that, like at all. Like she's not there with her mom. She had no
Oh,
idea what
okay.
her mom was planning, and Cora is doing all of that by herself. I'm standing at the bottom of the library, and like because Snow and David had run up to go grab the dagger because they didn't know she was gonna be there. So I was standing like guard at the door basically because they didn't want to put me in danger and I hear the glass break and I look up and Johanna's falling and I just kind of throw my hands out and she just stops, like everything just stops midair, like the glass, everything. And Cora had just, as soon as Cora had pushed her through, she disappeared. So I don't think Regina even knew any of that was happening. Honestly, I assumed Regina was with you during that time period,
Oh, it's
but
possible. It's interesting because my impression of like the only reason her mother does that in the first place is because she wants there to be no chance of anyone forgiving Regina because she's trying to isolate Regina.
yeah.
That's uh a
I
whole
also
separate
feel like
thing.
the Johanna thing and Snow's birthday and stuff, I also feel like that happens not as quickly from when
Mm.
Cora reveals herself. I feel like again it's about like a week and a half, 2 weeks
I
after
also
we've
gotta
gotten back.
gotta rewatch season two. It's been a
I
while.
mean, yeah.
But no, but yeah, definitely my impression is that Hook kind of like isn't involved in like any of the stuff that's happening up until
Mhm.
they need his ship essentially
Yep.
to go to Neverland. But I've gotten like I can see him like off in a little cabin somewhere like doing soul searching. Like
I swear, because he's not on his ship. I guess that's something else that I guess I haven't even said yet. But like, I have so many just random like snippets of memories of me just spending so much time on the Jolly Roger during season 2. But Killian is nowhere to be found. Like, I think I'm spending
yeah,
that time on the ship in
like
case he shows up, so that like I can tell David, because I was like, oh, he is. I tried to turn him in, but he escaped. Like, I'm like roll my eyes, don't care, like whatever, Dad. Kind of like when I responded, like when I told them about everything, I think.
yeah, no, I can totally see him like off like I'm trying to learn if vegetable gardening is for me, or something. Like he's like I have to find myself without my revenge. I'm starting from scratch here.
I think he whittles. I think
Yeah.
he
Oh my gosh.
definitely whittles. Maybe that's what he throws at me on my balcony. Yeah, because I think I talked about that one random memory where I'm sitting
Yeah.
there because I had gone on the Jolly Roger and I had
No, he made
stolen.
you something. He whittled you something and then he threw it at you.
Oh my God. So I guess this is another season 2 memory. Another reason
Oh
that
my
I know that I spent a lot
God.
of time on the Jolly Roger when he's not there, because I go through all of his stuff. I'm a nosy bitch and I I can't help it. And especially in this DR. Oh my God, I do not know how to mind my own business in this reality. So I go take several of his captain's logs and I take them back to my apartment and I read them, and I'm sitting on my balcony. It's actually really nice. Like, it's like slightly drizzling outside, like a little nice April storm, it's cute. And I'm in like a cozy sweater and I'm just sitting there and I'm like drinking tea and reading this book, and then something like flies and like I don't know if it hits me specifically or if it hits like the window or it hits something along me, and I look over the balcony and it's Killian at like under my balcony. I don't know what we were talking about. I don't know anything else past that point, but I bet he threw something he whittled for me, and that would be so fucking funny and adorable. I'd put it on my bedside table in a heartbeat. No questions asked.
I swear, if it's a duckling, I'm not even gonna.
I would literally lose my fucking mind. I would be so dumb. Oh my God.
I mean, wrong fairy tale, but
That would just be so ironic.
it
Uh,
would be really funny.
yeah. But for the most part, that's pretty much like the extent of like my season 2 memories. I have a couple of like random sporadic ones of just like in general meeting Neil and wanting to not like him, but he's really likable and I don't like that he's likable. But I'm like I can see, as much as I don't like it, I can see why he convinced you into this life of crime, Emma, even though you stole a car when you met him. So I know that that was a thing first, but let me be
Yeah, I was
delusional.
gonna say she was already,
She
yeah,
already was, but
she'd
it's
been
okay.
doing that since she was a teenager, like,
Really.
or even like a tween.
Yeah.
Definitely, she's been doing that a long time. I forgot I have memories that, okay, so first of all, we gotta talk about, I think we already talked about that Cora actually like gets her heart back and gets to keep his
Yeah.
heart, and Snow does not poison it. But I think she does still have some kind of like crisis of am I good or not? I don't know if it's in season 2 or if it's later on, but like I think at some point something happens where she's like, my heart is dark,
I
which
definitely think it's season 2, and I do still think it has something to do with Cora. I think it might have something to do with how she initially responded when Cora got her heart back, maybe. That's just speculation completely on my part, you know, because like,
I had a feeling it might be something in Neverland, but
ooh,
we'll get to that. But other than that, I'm the one that does the spell to find Regina, not Snow, because she does still get kidnapped. And I know this because I've gotten memories that I do the spell and I go find her. And so that's what happens there. And August doesn't get turned back into a child.
yes, August does
But
not turn into a child.
he does lose his memories.
Yep,
So
I think he only,
he is not able to give the warning,
yep.
but it's not because he gets turned into a child. It's just I don't know if they give him like a forgetfulness potion or something, but like something happens where he's not able to warn people in time. And
I I
go
guess I
ahead.
assumed that it was whenever he lost all of the memories from whenever he turned fully into wood. So
Oh
he
yeah.
got to keep them all the way up until he was fully into wood, but once he's fully into wood, that completely separate memories. So
No,
turning back
no,
to
no. I
man.
think that's right. I think that's right. I think that is right. Yeah. But I think most of the other stuff plays out more or less the way it does, except Hook's
Yeah.
not involved. Tamara and Greg are just sort of like working on their own at this
Yeah.
point. And Regina still tries to sacrifice herself to save the town. Emma still, they have their little moment. Henry still gets kidnapped. And like most of the stuff plays out
Mhm.
more or less the way it does. I think that Tamara might not die, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I
about that.
I about to say
Um,
I don't have any memories specifically of anybody actually dying other
yeah.
than Neil turning into the Guardian of Neverland.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
sure.
the
I haven't gotten
closest.
memories one way or the other about Greg, but I do think that Tamara survives and like flips sides the instant she realizes what's actually going on.
I
Um,
think Neverland is going to be so completely different in our
Different.
DR. Like, I don't think that it's going to follow the plot anywhere close to the same. I have gotten memories of certain plot points
Yeah,
actually happening.
there are some things happening. I do know that Regina and I split off at one point
Yep.
and then
And
come back.
yep, when everybody splits up and Hook and David go to try to find the cure for Dream Shade, although that's not what they tell everybody. They tell everybody they're going after a sextant. And unfortunately in the show they did boys and girls, so the gals all split off to go try to capture a lost boy and talk to Henry. I do know that I stay behind and I guard camp, and then I follow Hook and David because David's acting so weird. He gave me the weirdest hug and I'm like, no, I don't believe anything you're saying, you're lying. And then Hook acted really weird when we started like saying goodbye, and I was like, you're up to something, you know, whatever David knows, there's something, I don't know what it is. And so I follow them because, again, I really have no chill in this DR, absolutely none. And I follow them through the forest and I can kind of sort of overhear. It's really, really weird. The memories I got from this are so clear. And I almost wonder if Peter Pan was actually manipulating a majority of this experience that I was having, because it was like their voices, their conversation was being fed to me. Like I could hear it so clearly, like magic was amplifying it or something. Because there's really like I was following enough behind and they were not talking loud enough that I should have been able to pick up all of the details of their conversations, and I could. So whenever Hook goes up the cliffside, I think he's gonna like throw a rope down to David. I'm like off on the side trying to decide if I want to continue following them or not, because I'm not gonna scale a cliff. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not doing that. I climbed the beanstalk and that was enough scaling of things for me for a bit. And so I go to leave and Peter Pan is standing there. And we have this whole interaction and he gives me such ick vibes. He winks at me multiple times, and I don't like that. He's acting very strange. He tries to touch me a couple times, and again, not about that. He just gives me such creep vibes. I don't like it. But he's basically trying to get me to follow them. He's like, aren't you curious? Don't you want to know more? Blah, blah, blah. Like, which one of them are you out here for? Was it your dad? Or is it the pirate? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer your questions like I asked a question, you answered my question with a question. I'm not going to respond to your question with an answer. If you're not going to give me answers, I'm not going to give you answers. So I just kind of refused to talk. And he was like, you're kind of hard to read, aren't you? And I was like, that you're so ridiculous. Like I'm an open book. I'm the easiest to read of like anybody. That's how it's been my whole life. Like If
That's
you
why you're hard for him to read though, because people who are used to manipulating others are used to other people like having secrets or like having things to manipulate, and they're just like, I have to read what they're hiding. And what the reason you're hard to read for him is because you don't hide stuff,
Oh
but
my
he
God.
doesn't understand that people can be that way, and so he's like, I can't read you. I don't know what your secrets are, but there just isn't anything to find.
Oh my God,
But
that's
he
actually
just doesn't understand that.
that makes so much sense because his next words are what like really confused me about the whole memory was him being like, if you think you're easy to read, then people must not be willing to take the time to really read you or something along those lines. And I was like, what the you make no sense. I am just a person and I'm going home. I'm going back to my camp now. Like screw this, like whatever. Because he was trying to figure out why I chose to lie to everybody who went off to go get the lost boy. I don't know if you and Regina were I guess you guys had to have been a part of that. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Um
that's the first time Regina and I like, well, not the first time, but like we definitely disagree about how to deal with the lost boy.
okay. So yeah, so that would make sense. So I'm like, I'm gonna go back. And he was like, well, why did you lie to your friends and your family? Like, which one of the men brought you out here? Like he's really pushing. And I'm like,
I think
no,
that's
like
the first time I think that's the first time I've ever been like agreeing with Snow White about anything.
ugh, ugh, I love it. So halfway to camp, all of a sudden, like he had disappeared, and I was like almost to the camp, and then I was standing at the base of the cliffside. There was no like I was literally like walking, 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 and then boom, I'm like right in front of the cliff. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Where am I? Because David and Hook are no longer there, and Peter Pan stands there again. He was like, you need to finish what you started. You can't start things you're not willing to finish. You have to go up the cliffside. You've got magic, you know how. Or you could just take my hand and I could show you how. And I slapped it away and I was like, get away from me. And he was like, just close your eyes and imagine look like standing on the cliffside and looking down. Just trust me. And I'm like, I don't fucking trust you. You need to leave. And he was like, get up the cliff, you can do it. And then he like disappeared because that's what he does. He just pops in, pops in, pops out all the fucking time in Neverland. And I hate it so much because I think I scream almost every time. I think he gets me every time because I'm easily startled. So I do what he says after I like make sure that he's gone. I close my eyes and imagine it, and then boom, I'm on top of the fucking cliff. I just teleported for the first time ever by myself using my own magic. I just imagined teleporting up on the cliff, and I did. And then I have to decide if I want to follow after David and Hook or not, because I now know that David's poisoned and he was choosing to go die without us and without telling us. And I'm again pretty fucking pissed about that shit. Like David Nolan, what the fuck? That's some David Nolan shit. David Charming would never.
Look, David in both in the Enchanted Forest and in Storybrooke has a history of lying to Snow about things
And I
repeatedly. Even like when he like does it for like a good reason, there's like still he has a history of deceiving her,
mm-hmm.
which is so funny to me because Snow White is like the most truth-oriented Hufflepuff that I've ever seen. Like she can't keep a secret to say. Like she values honesty so much, and the fact that like her true love is this person who cannot be honest
Be
with her.
honest.
Like I just like I don't understand their relationship sometimes.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think that they have a slightly different dynamic, like in our
Yeah.
reality. But yeah, so I do decide to follow them. I follow them up to a certain point. I hear them get into a little scuffle and I almost intervene. I almost reveal myself. And then I hear Hook basically talking to himself about how annoyed he is that, well, if the prince had just waited around just a little bit longer, he could have cut these. But no, now I have to do it. And if I get poisoned and I have to stay on this island, I'm gonna be. And then he like he continues on as he starts whacking at it. So I decide that everything is good. And then I decide, instead of walking all the way back to camp, imagining camp to see if I can teleport there. And I do. I teleport all the way back to camp. And so I use teleportation magic twice, and it's because of fucking Peter Pan. But he'll never get that credit. It was me. I did it myself. And then I just kind of tidy up camp, and then I realized that I didn't really think anything through past that point, and now I just have like an extra like couple hours of being bored as fuck by myself until everybody comes back. But that's my only real legitimate Neverland memory.
I just got, I think, two memories, or one is like a memory, one is like a general inclination. But okay, so I also got an unwanted memory of Peter Pan. Annoyingly. This is not like a distinct scene memory. This is like a vague impressions memory. But I think that A, he tries to convince me that we're on the same side because we're both realm jumpers. Or like at least not necessarily that we're on the same side, but that like we're one and the same, you and I, or something like that.
That's
Like
so something he would say.
he
Ugh.
tries to convince me of that. And then also I think he might see me as a threat because he tries to convince me to leave. Because he's doing this thing where he's like, don't you have like a home and a loved one in another realm that you've abandoned? You should go back to them. Like he literally tries to, because he knows that I have the ability to leave Neverland by myself. So he tries to convince me
To do it.
to, which to be fair, I don't think Rumpelstiltskin has given me back my point shoes yet at this point. So it's possible that I don't actually have the ability to do that. Although it's also possible that he gave them to me before he went off by himself in Neverland. I'm not sure. But either way,
Sorry, you know how they end up having a mermaid go to Storybrooke to get something? I bet she grabs your point shoes too, because Rumpelstiltskin's not there to stop her, and you can just ask her, and then she'd ask Belle, and then Belle would definitely give them back to you.
assuming she could get through his magical protection,
Yeah.
I think it's either one of two things. I think Rumpelstiltskin gives them back to me before he leaves so that we have like an extra way to escape if necessary, or he gives them back to me or leaves me some kind of note about how to get through the protection before he sacrifices himself at the end, one or two. But somehow it's in season 3 that he actually gives them back to me. But Peter Pan definitely tries to convince me to leave Neverland. And it's either the Nutcracker knows it's fine, she and I have an understanding, or it's joke's on you, I can't leave. It's one or the other. I don't remember, but he does not want me there. I do know that. The other memory I got is, and this is so funny because it very much aligns with me here, is that I think I'm kind of a klutz in the same
Yeah.
way that like I'm super graceful and like body aware when I'm dancing. And then as soon as I'm not dancing, I'm just like the klutziest klutz. And what's really funny about this is I know so many dancers. I know so many dancers who are actual klutzes when they're not dancing. Like it's just this is just a thing, I think, that like happens with dancers sometimes. And I don't know if it's because like we use up all our grace while we're dancing, or if we're graceful while dancing because our bodies want to be in motion. And then when we're not in like dance motion, suddenly it's just like, I don't know how to orient myself in the world anymore. Or it's like I feel like I should be dancing all the time. So my body is trying to dance. And so I'm tripping over shit. I don't know. But it's I'm pretty sure that may be a thing. And I thought that I was possibly going to avoid that in another reality, but maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Do I have any other memories of season 3? You all still end up in the cave, right? You just end up in the caves rescuing Neil. I think
Yeah.
I think Regina and I
Unfortunately.
also end up in the caves separately, but I have no idea why we're there.
It's probably for something in order to get home or to get Henry. Because, like I said, I think our Neverland DR is going to be like the Neverland part is going to be a lot different. I don't think, like, while I think that certain plot points play out, obviously, because we've gotten some memories, I think that things are different. And as much as I thought that Neverland wasn't going to be as drawn out, I actually think we spend a bit of time there, much to my
Well,
unhappiness.
fuck.
I know. So I was like, no.
Going to script that there's like no bugs
I know I
and
scripted that you're
like
always comfortable. Like
yeah,
when like you're always comfortable. You can never get uncomfortable. That's the one thing about Neverland is that
no
like
scratchy leaves,
while things are
no
happening,
bugs,
you're
no
still
feeling too
comfortable.
cold because I am so not a camping person.
Yeah, no,
Like
me either. I can't
actually,
either. But we have everything. Everything is good. We also still technically have the Jolly Roger, and I do feel like we spend a couple of different nights on the Jolly Roger, which would make a lot more sense than being in the middle of the dark jungle where we've got no protection. But again, I digress. Like, I'm really trying hard to let Emma lead the way, and I think at some point after Neverland happens, we actually end up having a conversation where I basically tell her all of that, and she's literally like grabs my shoulders. She's like, "Use your words next time. You would have saved me so much issues." And I was like, "I wasn't trying to step on any toes. I was trying to let you have your moment." She's like, "Don't let me have my moment. I'm dumb." And I'm like, "Okay." Like it's a very twin conversation, you know.
I can't wait to
So
see this as a show. I'm like
no.
almost more excited to see that than to actually live it. You know what I just realized is going to be really interesting is that Regina and Tink are going to be having that conversation
You?
about me while I'm actually potentially there.
Literal, what if it's you guys are walking around, you don't have any idea what they're talking about. You just know that this was like like a story that Regina had, and then you end up taking off your jacket at some point, and Tink goes, "Are you kidding?"
I do think it might actually be in Neverland. That may even be, you know what I think? There may be like, they may realize that while I'm in Neverland, and then that may be what's revealed in the caves. I'm not sure. I think in the show, it's like right at the beginning of season 3B. And I
Yeah.
think it might be towards the end of season 3A, somewhere in Neverland, where Regina realizes, which makes more sense because in the show, Regina had like just met Robin, but Regina and I have been slowly building a relationship for the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah.
it sort of makes sense that
Oh.
like this would be a really shocking revelation to Regina because she's like, wait, it's this person that I've known the whole time and that I've been like building this relationship with, and also that I like trusted with my kid during the curse when I like didn't trust pretty much
Anybody.
anybody else. Like, oops.
Weird how the ties of
It's
fate
also
work that way.
possible that neither of them knew until that point that I was a woman. That would be fucking hilarious too.
I think
Because
that
I
would
had a
be
cloak on, so all they
yeah.
saw was the tattoo.
That
And
would
I
actually
also
be
don't
everything.
think that I don't think she realized that she was queer at
Hmm.
that point in her life either. And I don't think that the Enchanted Forest has that kind of stigma
Yeah.
the way that the Land Without Magic does. But I do think that it's probably a little less common. And I also think that Cora may have had some kinds of like just because of like the path that she has in mind for Regina's life,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean that she couldn't marry her off to a princess. I just think that there weren't any available. And so I think that Regina's sort of always had her mother's like, you have to marry a prince because like well, you need to be royal. And here are the people who are available who like you could get married to are like all
Yeah.
princes. So I think that she has like some like internalized, not necessarily homophobia, but like she had internalized ideas about the way she was supposed to love.
Yeah. No, I could totally
And
I have a feeling that Cora kept her from having like close friends as a kid too. So if you don't have a lot of interactions with like girls and boys like your age growing up, those are things that she just like straight up may not have even like thought of. So if your mom says you're gonna marry a prince one day, Regina's like, okay, I'm gonna marry a prince one
yeah,
day.
I think she
Just didn't
already had
have
like a whole like she had to already do some internalized stuff just to like understand her feelings for Daniel like
yeah.
already because
Mhm.
that was already not someone she was supposed to fall for because he was
Yep.
obviously very much not a prince. And so I think she already had to do some work about like I can
Undoing
have
what your
I
mom
can have
says.
feelings for a
Yeah.
peasant.
So
So I
who else
definitely
can I have feelings for? Maybe
yeah.
follow that.
Um
That makes sense.
it's weird because like I've got this sense that like it's something that she has to like wrap her head around, but it's not like an internalized homophobia thing. It's just a sort of this isn't something that I like expected, and now I
Yeah,
have to just like figure out what that means to me. Honestly, I think she had to do a lot more deconstructing for her feelings for Daniel.
probably.
Like definitely.
I
Poor thing.
know.
She just can't get your break. Her life is just like one thing after another.
I feel you, Regina. I relate with you so hard. It's
Yeah, no, like actually.
the
It
rest of season 3
for
is
season
just like
three.
in the year that we spend away in the Enchanted Forest, because there's in season 3, I feel like is really season 3 and season 4, and it always boggles my mind that there's just season 3B is this whole other plot line, because it really feels like a whole other season. And I think that's what it is in RDR. So I think Neverland takes up a full season 3, and then
Oh,
season 4 would be the like year in the Enchanted Forest where Henry and Emma do not have their memories and are in New York City. And we all went back to the Enchanted Forest, or the realm where we came from when the curse hit.
yeah.
And I just know about 8 months into that I learn illusion magic. I master it. Like, I'm able to go like this, and I look exactly like Killian, and he like does this little like walk around me, and then like hits the earring and is like, mine's a different color, and then I'm like, oh my god, and then I switch it, make it the right color, and then a crew member comes up right after that as he's like, wow, Swan, you're looking no, more handsome than ever, I see. Like, oh, am I this devil? You know, like he's like using it like a mirror, you know. And a crew member comes up and says, Captain, to me. And then I'm just like, I did it. Like that's when it really resonates that like I actually did this, because I don't know what I look like right now. I'm in my first person point of view looking at a crew member and saw Killian, you know, do this and felt it. It was really weird. That memory kind of scared me a little bit. That was one of the only sensory memories I've ever had, and that was weird. But yeah, I mastered illusion magic, I think about 8 months into us being in the Enchanted Forest. And then Killian takes me on a Enchanted Forest history coastal tour. This is what I'm gonna call it. Where we go into a little, he takes me to a couple towns, and we basically have like the Rapunzel Flynn Rider little like experience that actually legitimately happens to us. And like the memories I got were really short of us just being like having kind of come to a place where we don't know where else to search. We're kind of at loose ends. So we're like, well, maybe if we go some books. And then he knows my love for history, so he takes me to a really nice historical like old town, and like we really go through it. And he takes me to a library, and he's like, we could look for this, but here's a history book of your whole family line, like the royal line. And he like shoves it to me, and I like grab it and I start tearing through it, you know, because I don't know anything about my family like up to this point. Like Snow and David have not gotten the opportunity to tell us about like our lineage. I don't know anything about anything in the Enchanted Forest. So then I'm like, I'm starting, and he sees how excited I am. So then he's like, this one is all about the like our holidays, and like he starts like feeding me books, and we start going through them, and then like we get to go dancing.
Astrology.
And yeah, literally, he teaches me how to navigate with the stars on the Jolly Roger. That's one of my responsibilities on the ship as a crew member, is having to learn how to navigate so I can contribute as much as any of the other crew members can. Because I'm not going to get a free pass just because I've got pretty eyes.
I think David and Snow are really upset that you've run off with
Oh, they absolutely are. David, I think
Killian.
the last words David literally says to me is, so you're just gonna leave your family to go live a pirate's life? Are you really, Hannah? A pirate? And I'm just like, yep,
But you know what
bye.
it is? He's not actually upset that
Yeah,
you're going off to be
it's
a
because I'm
pirate.
leaving
It's
at
cause
all.
it's cause they Snow and David have a lot of like internalized we fucked up our kids stuff going on. And every time you or Emma like does something like that, they're just like, "Oh, we're terrible parents."
Yep. I
They
think,
just like have that reaction, and they're just
yep.
like, "Our kids don't want to be with us, but like we want to make up for lost time with our kids, and they're not they don't want to spend time with us." That's what it is, you
Yep.
know.
No, 100%. I think I know that at the moment, which is why I don't even care, because I'm mad. Like, I should just preface this to you guys. I wasn't told that Emma and Henry would lose their memories when all of this, I knew we were going to be separated, but I was not told that their memories would be taken away. And I find this out only when we get to the Enchanted Forest, because everybody agreed that I would have literally done anything to make sure it didn't happen. I would have done something crazy, and they were worried about me like doing some kind of magic, something that might not be good, is my guess. I don't know. I don't know
Well,
why they
also
didn't tell
wasn't
me.
wasn't Regina the only one who knew that
I think she walked.
before they got to the Enchanted Forest? Because she told Emma that, but I don't think she told anybody else that.
Well, my
Certainly
assumption,
she didn't tell Henry that.
No, she definitely didn't tell Henry. My assumption is that when Emma and Regina had separated and stopped talking, I had gone to get like the final words and the final like goodbyes with Emma because she's my twin and like that would be important. And I feel like Regina would have told Snow, David, and Hook and the like one or two people who were like standing right there, like recapping what was about to happen. And I just wasn't there. And then they tell me when we get back. I think that's what I wrote in my fan fiction because that was my assumption of what would happen. But I'm mad. I'm pissed. So I leave because they just believe that there's no way we can get Emma and Henry back. There's no way we can reunite our family. They're just accepting without even thinking of a third option when there's always a third option. They are literally Snow White and Prince Charming. They should know that. And like
It's kind of their thing
insulting.
too. Like finding
Yeah.
third options is also kind of their
But they
thing.
just,
So it's
but everybody just gives up. They're like, well, if Regina really believes, and I'm like, of course Regina's really gonna believe that because she believes she doesn't deserve happiness. She's a chronic self-sabotager. So of
yeah.
course it's gonna be her interpretation of the vision she got. Let's use our brains
Which
for a second.
which leads me into the next memory of that part, which also like maybe she doesn't figure out that I'm the person with the tattoo until later, because the other memory I've gotten is that I think she actually does put herself under a sleeping curse, which is she tries to do in the show, and Robin Hood talks her out of it. But I think she actually does. And I don't know how long she's under the sleeping curse for. Certainly I think by the time they get back to Storybrooke, she's probably woken up. I'm not sure. I think one of two things happens. Either she puts herself under the sleeping curse and I wake her up pretty soon, and that's when she's like, "Oh." Or she puts herself under the sleeping curse after I leave, because I leave too when I like go back to check on the Nutcracker, and I'm just like, ha, it so Peter Pan was right in a way that like I haven't checked in on her in a while, and even though time isn't passing for her, I kind of miss her, and I wasn't supposed to be here in the first place, so I should, probably just go check on her and it just be just like, you know, hi, let's spend some time together. And then I think the only reason I come back is because you send a message to me. I mean, I would have come back anyway, but the I come back when I do because you send a message to me. So it's also possible that like she's under the sleeping curse when they get back to Storybrooke, and I wake her up after I come back. Because I don't know how long. I don't know if I stay with them for a while and then leave, or if I leave immediately.
Yeah,
But
that's my one thing. I don't know if we spend like, I don't know if me and Hook leave right away or if we all spend one night together and then in the morning we leave. That's one of my like there's a lot of like weird things that I'm not sure how things are gonna line up. So I'm really excited to shift and experience it so I can figure it out because
yeah, and I'm
I
sure it'll
have no
make
idea.
sense when we're at, because we're gonna be living it. Like it's
Yeah,
not,
no, it'll be it won't even we won't even it'll be
we're gonna be living it, and I'm sure that like it'll make sense in the moment.
yeah.
I think.
I'm really excited to see what happens because like we're gonna have an entire year of RDR that is never really talked about in the show. They do a couple little flashbacks here and there, but for the most part, that has nothing to do with RDR because we scripted out the Wizard of Oz and the underworld.
Well, I think we scripted out basically everything.
Cruella. No, it was Cruella. It was
Yeah,
Cruella de Vil that we
Cruella
scripted.
doesn't exist in our reality. I'm big on undisneyfying, because what
Yes.
attracted me to the show to begin with was that the fairy tales all sort of had like their own unique spin, and so when things got very Disney, oddly enough, the only exception to this is the Elsa and
Yes,
Anna
which
plot
we're
line,
keeping.
which you'd think that would be the number one biggest one, because that is like but for whatever reason, I loved I just loved the plot line, and so like for whatever reason I'm okay with like Elsa and Anna existing. The reason I think I don't mind that they're to Disney, partly it's because they actually did make that plot line a lot more like the OG Snow Queen than the movie Frozen actually was. Although you can actually find more connections in Frozen if you're like looking between the lines. For example, think that Hans is actually supposed to represent the mirror, but that's a whole other that's a whole other tangent that we don't need to go on. Maybe that'll be in bonus content about how Hans is actually the mirror. I don't want Cruella de Vil in there.
Yeah.
She is 100% a Disney character who has nothing to do
100%.
with any fairy tale that I know of, and I don't feel the need for her to be in there. And also, to be clear, we didn't remove Oz. We just removed the Oz plot line. Oz still exists, and definitely like Zelina still exists. And I am so excited to watch the like there's going to be like we just like don't see any of this, but there's going to be somewhere a we'll probably get to watch what's happening in Oz while we're experiencing what we're experiencing. And I think that like she and Dorothy have their own whole story that's
Ugh.
like she like and Glinda, like there's a whole story happening that's just disconnected. We'll probably meet them and interact with them once Regina unites the realms, you
Yeah.
know,
I would say technically
way in the future.
all we really scripted was that Zelina wasn't Regina's sister and that the plot line specifically wasn't going to be a part of RDR. So,
Yeah, no, I feel like by the time I feel like we'll meet Selena eventually, but like by the time we meet her, she'll have like completed whatever character growth she's supposed to be going
yep.
through. Anyway, pretty much the rest of the show,
Yeah.
right, for us, because again, it's gonna be our life. It's not gonna, and it's funny because we talk about it in terms of like plot and character and
That
show, but this is gonna be a life, so
yeah.
it's
I
we're just using the terms that make the most sense for us to talk about it in terms of like
referencing.
describing it yeah, referencing and describing it to you all because this is the context that we have for it, but obviously this is going to be a real life.
These are
There
real memories, real
these are
experiences.
real people, right? So it's funny to talk about it in terms of plot because it's our
Yes.
lives.
It's more like these are just the events that keep happening to us.
Yeah.
This is what our Wednesday looked like.
Yeah, but essentially none of the plot past the Frozen arc happens at all. We may visit some of the places like Camelot. Well, and the Dark
I
One
would
plot
say
happens with
I
you,
would
but
say
that's
Camelot and the Dark One stuff because that was the last stuff that I had that I was
but
like
they're not
the Camelot plot
necessarily.
is not near like the show at all.
Yeah, it's Camelot exists and we go to Camelot. It's just I don't it's just not the same plot. It's just like it's not even the same characters necessarily. Arthur and Guinevere are completely different. And Nimue is also completely different. She is
Yeah.
the OG Dark One, but as we learn later, the Dark One was not like Nimue was not evil, and the Dark One was not supposed to be evil. Nimue was just someone who had a lot of power, and then it was the Dark Ones after her who were just like, I can corrupt this power and use it in ways that it wasn't intended to be used in. And I think you were the one she foresaw as being either she foresaw it or she like magically did something to ensure like she like looked into the future to figure out who's the person I can pass this on to because everyone else is using this power in a way it was never supposed to be used and she saw you as the right person and magically made that happen. I think that's what happened.
Because that just leads could do you want to talk about the Dark One memory?
Yeah, I have a couple more before I get there.
Okay, okay,
I
okay,
think
cool.
I think
Perfect.
I was just going to talk about like some of our vague memories that Rip Van Winkle is like doing because like there is like a second curse, right? But Zelina is just not the one who is
Involved.
at the heart of it. We think it's Rip Van Winkle, and there may be some of the I mean the Mouse King has already been defeated at this point, but the mice that were working for the Mice King may now be working for Rip Van Winkle, like or something like that. And I feel like that's like you mentioned Hickory Dickory Dock, and I'm just like I feel like that's connecting Rip Van Winkle, who's all about time, with the mice, who the mouse ran up the clock. So like it may be that may be connecting them. So that sort of still happens, but Rip Van Winkle is
Yeah.
not Zelina's is not
Yeah.
related to Zelina. He just has a vendetta against her because it was one of her ancestors who cursed him to sleep for what I'm pretty sure is actually a lot longer than 100 years. I don't know if he was under an actual sleeping curse or if it was some other kind of or it may be like an older version of the sleeping curse or something because it doesn't work. I don't think it works the same way because I don't
Yeah.
think he was woken by true love because when he wakes up everyone he loved is dead. So
Yeah.
which is why he's so fucking pissed obviously. But there was something going on. And so that's what's happening around that time. And
there is a version of Walsh, but he turns into a mouse or a rat. I don't know which one. I just saw his tail, but it freaked me out. That memory was so icky. I hated it.
I think it's a mouse. I think in the Nutcracker they're mice. Yeah, so he's not even the Wizard of Oz. That's a completely different character, apparently. And then you and Hook do end up
Yeah.
going back in time and bringing Elsa back.
Mhm.
And then that happens.
Actually, we suspect that it was me and Emma. Me and Emma that went through. Remember?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You and Emma went through. No. That's right. You had your twin bonding moment.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
think it works out that way because I had spent the year in the Enchanted Forest, and that's why we don't like we can get by without Hook. And I also, because this is another memory I got, which I literally just remembered. Oh my God, that's so exciting because I don't have it written down anywhere. Where we get to the Enchanted Forest, and I literally use magic because, you know, Emma's talking about us being in the past, like once we figure it out. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe we're back here and we're separated from everybody again. This is so annoying. And now I'm with Emma, who never listens to me. She doesn't ever listen to anybody. Then we're in the past and we can like really mess things up. And so I like change our appearances because I had just figured out illusion magic like 3 months beforehand.
Oh,
And so
right.
it's not Rumpelstiltskin that changes what we look like. I change what we look like. And we do still end up like, I think, talking to Rumpelstiltskin, and he gives us like, I'm like, I have magic. I know shit. Tell me what the fuck to do to get out of this situation right now. Right now. And there's no Hook involved, so it's pretty
Forgot about that.
it flows pretty easily, and then we bring Elsa back. Same way
Yeah.
that it happens in the show.
And that is a little bit different because Rumpelstiltskin is not scheming. And also, we should have mentioned that Rumpelstiltskin does get to come back after his sacrifice, but it's not at the expense of Neil. Neil gets turned back into a child and goes and becomes the new guardian of Neverland because once Pan tied himself to Neverland, Neverland now needs to have a guardian. Or the shadow was the guardian of Neverland. Pan tied himself to the shadow. So the shadow now has to be anchored to a person. And so Neil is now that person. And I think he was actually always supposed to be that person.
Yeah, from the memories that I got from it, the shadow chose Neil
Yeah, I
when he
think
was a
so.
child. The first time that the shadow saw him in the darling's bedroom, the shadow chose Neil as the replacement.
Pan's shadow secretly plotting against him the whole time. I kind of love that. Uh
Same. I don't think
yeah.
he liked being forced to be tied to somebody physically. Like,
Well, I mean also I don't think the shadow liked the what Pan was doing to Neverland either, you
yeah,
know. So Bay goes and becomes the guardian of Neverland, and I think Wendy, John, and Michael and Tink all go back with him. And Tink totally gets rewarded by like getting her wings back and like getting to be the fairy of Neverland. So Bay is also kind of Peter Pan in a way that I think like Pan is like in a way it's like the title of the Guardian of Neverland. I
yeah,
don't think he changes his name to Peter Pan, but like that Peter Pan is a role, not a person, because that's not Rumpel's father was not originally named Peter Pan. So Malcolm was the first Peter Pan and Balefire is the second Peter Pan. And I think probably the final Peter Pan, that's supposed to be his role. And then
Henry gets to go visit him in his sleep because Neverland's
yes.
restored to its original purpose, which is for children who are feeling lost to have somewhere to go in their sleep to have an escape that is
But I
positive for them.
also think that in addition to that, I think Neverland now has a new purpose for children who like are actually lost and don't have homes to go have a home. I
Yep,
think that's also part of
I
its
agree.
purpose.
So you can physically or dreaming, and Henry goes in his dreams, and I had memories of the first night that that happened being over at Snow's Loft and Henry coming down and yelling about it and like freaking out, and it
Yeah.
was literally so emotional. I
Yeah.
was not expecting it.
We've
So,
definitely talked about this on the podcast a few
yeah.
times. So, but anyway, because Rumpelstiltskin is not backsliding in the same way, he eventually, oh, and it makes more, you know what makes sense too? Because I got the impression that my brother is also the Sorcerer's Apprentice or part of that story, not the apprentice that we see in the show. He might be the new Sorcerer's Apprentice, but he may now be with us. Although he might have been in Storybrooke the first time too. I don't remember. I know he has a curse name, so just I don't
Well, there was
know.
the second curse though.
Yeah,
Everybody, a lot of people came over in the curse.
people didn't get curse personas in the second curse though. So I don't know how he has a curse name if he wasn't in the first curse. But either way, I think that my brother is now somehow part of that. But I think that the hat doesn't like suck you into it. It just like sucks your power away, I think. And I
Mhm.
think that Rumpelstiltskin finds the hat not with the intention of gaining more power for himself, but actually with the intention of removing the Dark One powers from himself. I think he's done with it, and I think he just wants to like live, a normal life with Belle and not have this burden anymore. But he also doesn't want to give the burden to anyone else, and he's trying to figure out a way to just fully get rid of it. And I think he's using the hat to try to do that. And that leads into what ends up happening is the Dark One powers are just like, actually, no, like the hat spits them back out. So they're now detached from Rumple, but they're now just floating around out there. And this memory that I got, which was like the first like full-on visual memory that like played out like a full scene that I've ever gotten. And it was so vivid. And it was Regina and I are like, I think we're on a date actually. Like Regina and I are like walking around on a date, and like you and Hook are also on a date. I think you and Hook are on a date, and like Regina and I are on a date, or I don't know if you're on a date, but you're walking around. You and Killian are walking around. Regina and I are walking around. Emma is walking around with Snow and David. They run into me and Regina, and the Dark One powers are floating around, and they're just like, "Ooh, look, Regina is someone who has held a lot of power in the past. This is someone we can attach ourselves to who has held powers similar to this in the past. So maybe this is our new person because you're not there yet." I don't know if they mistake her for you, or if we were just like maybe right outside the door and so the powers were just like there, or if you're being blocked from like it can't sense you. But for whatever reason, the powers try to attach themselves to Regina. And I'm like, aha, shit, no, we're not. This is going to be traumatizing for her. She doesn't need this. I run at her to like no avail, because what ends up happening is I get blasted back because the magic is just like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. So I have a distinct memory of me like running, like blindly running at her with, I don't know what I'm thinking that I'm gonna do. Like I don't think I'm thinking at all, because what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? Grab like thin air? Like I have no idea what I'm actually trying to do, but I run at her and get blasted back. And then Emma does her thing where she's like, I don't know why she has the dagger actually at this point, but I
Maybe
don't.
Rumple gave the dagger to the savior after telling her what he was gonna do so that she
Yeah.
could dispose of it, maybe.
Oh, you know what? It's possible that they're all there while this is happening. And so instead of like running into it,
They all watched it fly out, so
they're
they
all
ran
watching it
out.
happening, and this is what happens, and and this is unexpected. And I think maybe then like Regina and I walked in and the powers went for Regina, and then Emma, this part plays out exactly the same, where Emma's like, the only thing to do is to go in with the dagger, and Regina's like, no, and Emma's like, you've worked too hard to have your happiness destroyed. I swear to goddess, this is the most romantic scene in the whole show. But anyway, and she tries to take the Dark One powers, and then you and Killian walk around the corner, and then the magic is just like, boom! And just like, even though Emma has the dagger, and the powers are like, the magic is literally transferring to her, it's just like right back out, beeline for you, and then just, and everyone's just like, what the fuck? And you vanish. And also, like, now your name is on the dagger, which Emma is still holding. And she's like, excuse me, what the fuck? Like, what? How is this even possible? What happened? Why for? I had the dagger. She's so confused, poor thing. Killian's freaking out, like actually full on triggered, and may even lash out at Rumpelstiltskin a little bit, I think. And Snow calms him down. But yeah, that's definitely.
And then it's so funny because after you had given that memory, I got a memory of waking up as the Dark One in the Enchanted Forest. So once I'm like fully conscious after having become the Dark One, I'm looking around realizing I'm wearing what literally feels like a burlap sack robe with a hood. Like it's so scratchy. And then I said, "What the fuck?" And looked around, realized I was in the Enchanted Forest again, separated from everybody. Again. again and say, gosh fucking damn it. Literally just like, gosh fucking damn it. And then I start looking around and trying to like figure out what the fuck to do because I
Yeah.
can't stop showing up in random realms,
Yeah.
apparently.
And I
I'm
think
meant to be here.
initially the past Dark Ones are trying to get you to use the Dark One powers the way they did, but I think you push past that pretty quickly and connect with Nimue,
Yep.
who is just like, you're the one I've been waiting for. Here's how you can actually use the powers. And also, there's no such thing as dark magic. The ones after me started this bullshit. That's not actually how magic works. I think
This.
I already knew that probably because, again, I think realm jumpers have just like a different view of magic in general. But I think that I didn't realize that nobody else knew that. Like, I think I did that thing where just like, oh, I'm totally oblivious to the fact that like I thought everyone knew this, but apparently I was wrong, which like the number of times that's happened, like actually. But yeah, no, so Nimue is the one who is just like, yeah, actually, there's no such thing as dark magic. Magic doesn't have alignment. Magic is just magic. And it's called the Dark One powers, not because they're evil, because dark does not equal evil, contrary to what the media likes to tell us. They're called dark because I think of light as what is visible and dark as what is hidden. And so
Me too.
Emma's powers as light powers are like very external and very sort of like what is obvious. And then your powers are a little bit more internal and more about what is hidden. And they're meant to balance each other out, but it's not like one is good and the other one is evil. It's just that anyway. And so the Nimue is just like, yeah, so the people who corrupted this power after me started this bullshit as a way to justify doing whatever the fuck they wanted with no consequences, and then got everyone else to believe that this is how it worked, and also that you could be corrupted by magic. And so everyone just assumed that was going to happen, and so they used that to
It,
justify doing whatever the fuck they wanted. So but obviously you're too smart for that bullshit. So
and I've also never cared about power. I'm not a competitive person. Like, I like playing, like, just as an example, I love playing games, but I am just as happy to get first place as I am to get last place. Like, I just don't care. That's me becoming the dark one. The shift I had on camera in the first episode actually takes place right around that time because it was right as Killian, and I think you and everybody else were probably like running up behind him, but I think he was much further ahead than everybody else, and he was the first person to find me. And it was me realizing that I didn't have to struggle to figure out how to get home. Everybody had come to me to help me get home, and I was really emotional about that realization that I wasn't just left abandoned to figure it out myself the way it felt like I kind of sort of had the last several times this had happened.
mm,
Not that it was on purpose or anything, but I think that was my expectation going into it, was that like, I'm in this situation, I have to get myself out of it. Nobody else is going to be able to help me. And then to see Killian literally standing there as I'm like, Rumpelstiltskin has been talking to me because he was one of the first ones, and he does stick around, I think, for a couple of days before I finally get him out and I get connected with Nimue specifically. And I'm basically just I'm just insulting him the whole time. Like, I am out loud talking to this imaginary guy in my head and telling him how stupid he is for trying to convince me to use powers I don't need to use for purposes I don't need to use them for. And I think it's hilarious. But Killian standing in front of me and us having like that emotional talk as I think everybody's starting to like run up and everything, that was where I shifted to in that moment in season, like in that episode that
wow.
we filmed. And it was like having the realization. I think that's why I started sobbing immediately, is because like I think that's the conversation that we were having, was about like him, like me seeing him and being like, are you really here? And him being like, of course, Swan, what were you expecting? And losing it. So
Side note, Hook calls Emma Swan number two.
yeah, he does. Swan and
Really
Swan
funny.
number two.
So meanwhile, while you're showing up in the Enchanted Forest after you vanish in Storybrooke and everybody is freaking out trying to figure out what's going on, Emma and Regina have this little conversation afterwards where Regina is like, you were about to sacrifice yourself for my happiness. I'm gonna
That's so sweet. Stop.
And Emma's like, yeah, of course. I would have done the same thing for anyone.
Oh my God, Emma.
Because she can't, she's still, and Regina's like, no, you wouldn't.
I'm so glad Regina can call her on her shit
I don't
because
know that
God.
I don't know if she says that out loud or not, but I know that she comes to that conclusion because she and I have that conversation where Regina is having another crisis where she's like, what does this mean?
Oh my God. Regina being a little autistic coded, not knowing how to process her emotional feelings for people when she gets them. It's cute.
Regina thinking that she doesn't deserve love and is never going to find it and ending up with two loves is like something that I love so much.
Full circle. That's
I kind of
exactly
I
all
kind
she
of sus
deserves.
I kind of suspected that she and Emma might have a thing before going into this just because I got those kinds of vibes from the show, as people probably know because I've talked about it and
Mhm.
I've talked about how like that would have been a storyline that I would have liked in the past. But the more memories I get from this reality, the more I'm convinced that that is actually a thing in our reality. I have
Oh yeah,
not
no,
actually gotten
100%.
any memories of them together. I have just gotten lots of memories of both of them being dumb lesbians about it, basically.
Yeah. I
Even
feel like
though,
I think that there might be I think I get my first suspicions of Emma maybe having feelings for Regina maybe before she even knows it in
oh
Neverland, but
yeah,
that's
it
a
takes Emma
really
a long time to
yeah.
realize it.
But I won't say anything.
Regina realizes it pretty early on. She just has so much self-hatred that she's just like, the savior would never love me. So like she's just like pining. But Emma just like ignores her feelings. So like she doesn't realize that she is has feelings when she does. So it takes her a really long time to figure out what's going on. Definitely. Side note, I definitely have so I have a cat in this reality, and when Regina first meets the cat, she's like, keep this beast away from me. But then she I have this distinctive memory of her being like, this cat is the only one who understands me. I think it might be sometime in season 2. Poor thing. But
God.
she it's like the speed with which she goes from what is this fanged beast to this is the only creature that understands me. It's just because my cat loves her, like
Oh,
actually loves her. Which is great. Regina kind of has a therapy animal, but
as she needs.
yeah. Anyway, that was a side tangent. But yeah, so Regina is like processing having like two true loves, and Emma is just not processing her feelings. But like, yeah, no, the number of oh, I was gonna say I call them dumb lesbians. Emma's not a lesbian. She is a bi queen. But
Same.
that's just the term that made the most sense for their particular dynamic. Regina is also probably bi, at least in like in she's either bi or she like realized she was a lesbian later on. I'm not sure. But she definitely their dynamic with each other is dumb lesbian. Like black cat, golden retriever, dumb lesbian is like their dynamic is 100% what's
I love them so much. I
me,
literally can't wait.
me too. It's so funny though, because again, all the memories I've gotten about their relationship is them being idiots about it.
Yep.
It's not anything actually. It's just like
They're just ridiculous.
they're ridiculous.
I think the only other memories that I have are literally just the fact that there is a prophecy. There was apparently a prophecy about me, the replacement Dark One,
Yeah.
because when there's a new savior born, a new Dark One has to be born. There had been a long time since the last savior had been born in this realm or something. So,
Which was probably Merlin, actually. Like
yeah.
Merlin and Nimue, I think, were the first Savior Dark One combo.
Yep, I think so too. So when Emma was born, that's why I was born as a twin. That's been my whole story, but I didn't know that until I become the Dark One and Nimue. I get in contact with Nimue and she tells us to go to Camelot because that's where the prophecy has been held because it was specifically put away from the other Dark Ones when they started spreading the misinformation, basically, and making it a Dark One thing. I think that may have been like one of the final last, like one of the things that Arthur did for Merlin was take the
Mm.
book up with the prophecy of the like of how that works and hiding
Yeah,
it.
I don't even know if the other dark ones even knew about that.
No, I don't think they did. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I think they all would have gone after it. I think that is something specifically that like Nimue had
Yeah. Well,
managed to
and
make.
also I think most of them were like oblivious to the whole like
I think
I
it
don't
was
think
one person taking it from Nimue because he saw a way to get power. Is my assumption on
yeah, and then
how the power transferred to the first real Dark One, which is the one who actually coined the name Dark One. He wanted power and he wanted the excuse to use it. And then he told all of his predecessors that's what you do and how you do it and how to do it. And nobody thought to say no because I don't know why. But I do. I'm the first person to say
well,
no.
it's
I
not
think
that they
that's
thought to say no, it's that they didn't realize they had an option. They were convinced that the power would corrupt them, and because they believed that the
it.
magic would turn them evil, that's what happened.
Yep. Whereas they tell me that and I'm like, no, that's wrong. I don't believe you. And I'm not using it that way. I've had magic for like the past 2 years. So like I'm really unconcerned and I really don't need anything more than what I've already been doing. So I'm more concerned with like the fact that you even think that's necessary. Like, I don't know. I like the idea of just trying to like cross analyze imaginary Rumpelstiltskin
No,
and like
I love that.
just really get under their nerves just to get them to leave me alone because I don't want to deal with it. But
Yeah.
I really the only actual memory I have in Camelot is literally being in a library tearing through books trying to understand this prophecy and it not making any fucking sense because I'm horrible at riddles. And I think it is written in a riddle form or it's written in some kind of code and I'm a good researcher. I can read primary sources in ancient Greek. I've done that before. I can't decipher the Dark One prophecy and figure out what it means and how to like cuz what I'm trying to figure out based on what Nimue I think has told me is how to integrate the power into my own so it doesn't need to transfer anymore and it can end with me because that's the purpose of it is I'm trying to end the dark one cycle because Emma will hopefully be the last savior so I should be the last dark one.
Or at the very least, what's happening is that you're not perpetuating the dark one being there when there isn't a savior to balance it, right? There may be a future dark one and savior, but they will be born together
Yeah,
when they're
it's
supposed to
all
be.
about balance. So when
Right.
Emma's
It's
gone, when the
about,
savior's gone, the dark one's gone, and that's
yeah,
how it has always supposed to been until it got corrupted. And this is it finally reaching the correct balance, and it just happens to be twins
yeah, yeah,
from the heroes of the realm at the time.
yeah. So we also think that we're pretty sure that the Wild Swan story does come into play at some point.
We don't
And
know when, but I'm
yeah,
almost 100% positive at least Emma, if not Emma, David, Snow, and probably several other people are randomly turned into swans. That'll be awesome.
definitely Emma, because that plays into in the
Definitely Emma.
the wild swans. Well, it's her brothers, but it can be a sibling, whatever. In the wild swans, Elisa's siblings get turned into swans, and if Emma is the white swan, then she's a character that gets turned into a swan anyway. So I think she does get turned into a swan at some point, and we also think we may know who the villain of that storyline. Oh
Oh,
dear,
yep.
but
We're
that's
we
okay.
won't talk we will only talk about that on this podcast if and when that happens.
If and when that happens, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. I have also gotten a random memory of Regina ripping my heart out, which is not as bad as it sounds.
And with
Uh,
no context. We got
because
no
of the
context.
I got well, okay, so I got no context, but I got enough context. I got feelings about it. Like I don't know the circumstances, but the feelings I got about it are that first of all, this is consensual. Like this is something that I'm allowing her to do, and I actually think I had to convince her to do it. And I
Yeah.
also think that it has something to do with whatever crisis we're facing at that point because there's always some or another crisis going on, but I think that for whatever reason, like my heart is needed. I don't know if it's for like a spell or a potion or something, but like my heart is needed And I don't know if it's my heart because of my magic or if it's my heart because of my connection to Regina, who is probably the one doing the spell. I don't have the circumstances. I just know that it's needed for something. And I think Regina is concerned that, like, if it doesn't work out, I may not get it back. And I'm just like, no, I trust you. It's chill. It'll be fine. Do what you gotta do. It'll all be fine. And Regina is just like, I don't, because she's also had this crisis of like, wait, so my magic isn't dark, it's just magic. And we're just like, yes, it is. You just have magic. And I think she then feels a lot better about herself.
Yeah.
There's also isn't this bullshit about Regina having to not use magic in order to be a good person, because
No,
that's
that does not happen at all.
the most ridiculous bullshit ever. This idea that magic is the problem is not something that is,
Does not even exist in RDR. That's not even a
yeah. So that happens. And again, this feels like it would be a traumatizing memory, but it did not, like, it felt very peaceful, weirdly. I know that's a strange thing to be like, yes, someone ripped my heart out and I felt peaceful. That's just how I felt about it when it happened. Regina was freaking out a little
Yeah.
bit, but I was like, I'm at peace. Whatever happens will happen. And it's fine. And I trust you. And Regina's like, but what if I fuck up? And I'm like, you won't. It'll be fine. And if you do, that's okay too. It's fine. And she's like, I'm holding your heart in my hand.
to like this.
And I think I make some really bad romantic pun about it, because of course I do. And I think that makes her feel a little better.
Not me playing
But
that song on the jukebox every time you guys walk into Granny's.
what, Dancing Queen? Yeah, apparently that's our ship name, Dancing Queen. And so one of the things that you like to do is to randomly play it at
Yep.
Granny's when we're in there together.
Every time.
Much to my annoyance and much to Regina's confusion. I've
Every
definitely
time.
gotten a memory of Regina being like, it's weird that they play this song so frequently in here. Aren't people getting sick of this? Don't they want to listen? Don't want to listen to anything with variety? Like, she doesn't understand.
I love it so much.
And every time I'm just like, I just like give you a look every time. I'm just like, really? This is not our song.
It is. So good.
Where?
Does that lead us to our final
Our
fun,
final memory.
the final one,
The
the
final
best
memory,
one? This
the
is, I'm literally
seagull
so
one.
excited. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I'm gonna be sitting back and watching this because it is the most entertaining. If you are not watching this on a video, highly recommend stopping what you're doing if you can and watching it in video form, just in case. Because this is my favorite memory Artemis has ever gotten, and I've been eagerly awaiting it since like you got it in October.
I think it was earlier than that. I think it was like
Yeah.
September or
Yeah,
maybe
so
even August. It was really
it was
early.
really early, and it's the most detailed memory either of us have ever gotten. It's the most like detail.
I full on channeled this.
You
Like,
did,
I
and
was
it's everything. So I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna sit back and listen. And you
okay.
might
And
hear me squeal,
I'm gonna
but
edit this together because I am like full on doing all of the characters' voices. And I will probably put like little either like pictures so you can see who's talking, or like the names of the character who's talking, so that you will get a sense for what's going on. So the context. This is far into the future. Regina has already united the realms. But in RDR, the realms aren't like all in one space. They're just all connected, so you can easily travel between them. And I think that Regina is trying to like bring tourists to Storybrooke, or like bring attention to, because Storybrooke is now like sort of like the capital, or like the head of the United Realms. And I think she's like trying to like trying to connect people through there, and like welcome to Storybrooke. So she's like starting like a welcome to Storybrooke series, where she like on like social media, or like whatever version of social media Storybrooke has, And she's like, so yeah, so we're gonna make these videos so we can, connect with people from the United Realms and get them to like learn about Storybrooke and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. And you convince her that letting Killian make these videos is a good idea.
Yes, I do.
And the following ensues. This is the first video, the very, very first video that is posted. So, the mayor wants me to make these little welcome to Storybrooke videos, so I figured we'd do a tour of the town, starting with my favorite place, the docks. As you can see, there's my ship, the Jolly Roger, my pride and joy. And there's Hannah! Hello, love! We're doing a video. Well, it's for Regina's Welcome to Storybrooke series. Yes, she asked me. Why are you laughing? Stop laughing! Swan! Anyway, moving on. Where to next? Bloody hell, there's a lot of seagulls on the docks today. Looks like a couple of them have got hold of a piece of bread. People really shouldn't be feeding the seagulls. Nasty little buggers. It only encourages them. Oh, they're fighting over the bread now. This could get nasty. Seagulls have notorious tempers. One time in Neverland, I saw one snatch a seashell from a mermaid. Only a seagull could steal from a mermaid. Of course, it paid dearly for its little heist. If you're going to steal a seashell, make sure there isn't anything still living in it with claws. Anyway, these two appear to be doing serious battle over this piece of bread. Too early to tell who the victor will be yet. After, there's like a break in the video, like a video cuts, and then it comes back. So, update on the seagulls. Gully, that's the one on the left. I thought it'd be easier to keep track if I gave them names. Gully seems to have given Sealer a nasty scratch, but Sealer still seems to have a better grip on the bread at the moment. Neither of them seem willing to consider just sharing the bread. But then that's seagulls for you. Oh, shameless trick by Gully there. But Sealer seems to be recovering well. They've still got hold of the bread. There's another break and the video comes back. It's been 30 minutes now. Gully seems to have gained the upper hand at the moment, but I don't know how long it'll last. There have been some truly fiendish moves on both sides. This is truly turning into a battle for the ages. There may be no survivors. Wait, was I supposed to be showing you the town? And that is the first ever Welcome to Storybrooke video.
That's my man.
What I love about this is that you're like making fun of Killian for being chosen to do this when you were the one to suggest it in the first place, but he doesn't know that.
Well, of course I am.
So this is the first ever Welcome to Storybrooke video. But then there's a part 2 to this memory, which is what happens when Regina finds out. Because this gets posted and then she sees this. So Regina, holding her phone with the video on it, storms up to Hook. What is this? Well, it appears to be a video. Seagulls? Really? Well, Snow White rather insisted. You know how she is about birds. Please. If Snow White had had anything to do with this, the seagulls would be eating out of her hands and probably married off to each other by the end of the video. Well, I can't argue with that. What's going on over here? Ah, Swan number 2. You really need to stop calling me that. Take a look at this. Really? I tried to tell her it was all Snow White's idea. Emma rolls her eyes. We're never going to build an audience with this. I should never have let Hannah talk me into letting you do this. I mean, it is kind of funny. Maybe people will like it. You're siding with him? I'm not siding with anyone. I'm just trying to look on the bright side. Your mother is rubbing off on you. Talking about me? We're talking about the video Hook just posted to Storybrooke's newly created social media page. Oh, I saw that. It was cute. Of course you would like it. So did everyone else. Look, 10,000 views. Let me see that. See, I know what I'm doing. Unbelievable. What are people on these days?
Applause.
I swear.
Oh my god. And that's friends and family. That's how we know this reality is a real live reality, because in neither of our wildest dreams could either of us have possibly contemplated any of
This.
that.
This.
Like,
I swear.
it is the most me
This
thing
seagull.
ever. So
Gully and Sela becoming the Storybrooke mascots, like actually.
Storybrooke's mascot being a fucking seagull. God damn it, dude.
Two seagulls fighting over a piece of bread. That's the mascot.
Specifically. Henry putting into the high school, can we make this our new football mascot? They want to bring football to Storybrooke, you know, of course.
Let's not, please. No, because it would be like jousting and stuff that
Yeah.
they would be bringing in. But
Just two seagulls fighting over
jousting.
bread is the Storybrooke sigil on everybody's
Love it.
little. God, I love it so much. It's
Look,
so
I've seen more unusual mascots. My college mascot was the fighting dead tree, so you know.
like me going.
I
as a
think I
tree
went
for
on a
Halloween.
tangent in one of the earlier episodes about how we were like convinced that my college was actually Hogwarts in disguise.
I
That's
think that was the last.
that's another one that our mascot is essentially just a Whomping Willow. So, and thus concludes part 2 of our Storybrooke DR memories that we've gotten. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for your patience. We hope that you enjoyed. Talking about DR memories is so fun. And it's one of those things that until you start really talking about them, you don't realize how many you have and how much detail you have about them. So we really appreciate, especially you guys joining us on this special 2-part episode where we get to talk about all of these DR memories, because we love sharing them with you. And maybe in season 3, we'll talk about some DR memories from other DRs that have nothing to do with Storybrooke.
Or maybe next episode. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll talk afterwards and decide. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.